Welcome to the Trail Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Dean Horwitz, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. Each week, we'll be hitting the trails with some of South Africa's most inspiring trail runners, diving into the topics that matter most and uncovering the secrets of this incredible sport. Lace up your trail shoes and join me on this adventure. New episodes every week. How's it, Rebecca? Welcome to the Trail Chasers podcast. I am super excited. I am super inspired by your story. And for me, I really, there's so much depth and so many layers to it that I really want to uncover. And I think a lot of things that people, don't know about you and what you've done in kind of the short space of time has been inspiring and amazing. So very, very keen to find out everything and anything about you, and share that with my listeners. So welcome.
Thanks, Dean. I'm very excited to be here.
And, I like to kind of go straight in. Tell me in your own words, who is Rebecca?
I don't know. I'm 21 years old. I live in George. I love my home. I love being there. I love running there. And I love to run.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, it's so interesting. You have this whole backstory kind of before trail running. So take me back to the beginning. What was life like, or what were you doing kind of before trail running? In terms of running, in terms of life. I mean, it's quite weird. As you said, you're 21 years old. So before you started trail running, you were a teenager.
Yeah.
But take me back to kind of the beginning.
In school or before trail running, I've always been a sporty kid.
Yeah.
I did all the sports, team sports, individual sports. But later on I realized that I'm more of an individual sport person.
Yeah.
I got into running, obviously. And I took it seriously from the get-go. And I just loved to run before trail running.
So talk to me about that, your kind of early running career. How did that kind of get started? What distances, what were you doing?
So I started track running in end of primary school, and then into high school I started, but I wasn't too serious into it. But later on I decided, okay, I'm going to put full focus into running. And I started out with the 800 meters and the 1,500 meters. And then I did that for a couple of years. And then I started doing the 3,000 meters. And then I just kind of should focus straight on that. And trained specifically for the 3,000 meters and.
And talk to me a bit about the injury and, I think that obviously shifted, your entire life. So at the moment when you were kind of doing the 3,000 meters, that was towards the end of school. And was the plan then to kind of be a professional, runner in the sort of 3,000 meter athletics kind of field?
I've always wanted to be a professional in some type of sport. I honestly didn't think I would go into trail running as my profession, but running was, my dream was to become a professional runner in some distance, if it was on the track or on the road.
Yeah.
But when I started the 3,000 meters, I was 15 at the time, and I picked up an injury and I kind of just pushed through it, and eventually it gave in, and I kind of was out. I was out for 2 years, and I only was able to run and compete again, middle of 2021.
Wow.
My last year of school.
Sure.
So I was out for a very long time, and I got back to it end of 2021, and that's kind of how I got into my trail running shortly after my last race on the track.
Yeah. And talk to me about those 2 years, what were the kind of lessons that you learned through that time? How did you kind of, keep up the dream and the focus and the, especially being so young?
Yeah. It was a very difficult time for me. Mentally, I was struggling. Physically, obviously, I was struggling.
Yeah.
But that kind of made me very eager to get back, because a lot of people were telling me that it wouldn't be possible, or not telling me, but like indirectly telling me.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to prove myself, but also prove them, I guess, in a way, that I am capable and I am able to get back to how I was, or even better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what kept me going. But yeah, it was difficult, and I did other things to try and fill that void of not being able to run. So I got into swimming, I got into cycling, because that wasn't a lot of impact on the body.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of just filled that like empty space with that. And then yeah, it just made me very eager to get back to what I loved doing, which was running.
Yeah. And, I think one of the interesting things is when I, heard about the injury and stuff, I think one of the interesting things, and I think we've discussed on this podcast before, is that, often people kind of run for a number of years, or they go too hard, too fast, and then they get an injury, and then they kind of learn these kind of lessons. So in terms of things that kind of have benefited your trail running, in terms of the rest and the rehab and things like that, what did you kind of learn during that time that have kind of been quite crucial to what you're doing now?
So when I was running back then, I believed lighter is faster. So I kind of, I didn't eat enough and for what I was doing, and that obviously slowed the recovery. I didn't believe in rest days. So all of that was a big red flag.
Yeah.
Being an athlete, or trying to be the best athlete you can be. So that's definitely the biggest lessons I've learned, is you need to feel your body for what you want to do. If you want to succeed, if you want to do well and get results, you need to feel your body, and also obviously rest and let your body recover.
Yeah.
You're not going to get fat or gain weight, or if you take a rest
lose
day,
fitness,
your body needs it.
Yeah. And, talk to me, you mentioned about, people saying you'll never kind of run again. And were they kind of suggesting alternatives, or was it like, look, the sport thing is just not going to happen. Maybe you should just get a job.
Yeah. I don't know, like they were looking at me as like my bones were not very strong. They're a lot better now.
Yeah.
So obviously they were just advising me and trying to tell me what's best and keep me healthy.
Yeah.
So they obviously were trying to get me away from trying to run, maybe get into another sport just as like a hobby.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any of that. I couldn't not run.
Amazing.
So like I did obviously try other sports and stuff, but that just wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
And I just decided like I will get back into it. I just need to learn the lessons that I've learned and take it forward and try and do that mind shift and process everything and do it the right way.
Yeah. And then you got back into it at the end of your matric year.
Yeah.
Why didn't you kind of stick with the track from there?
So my 2021, my last track race, shortly after that, I got the similar sensation, that pain sensation in my hip in the same like area. So I went to like for scans and everything and they couldn't pick anything up. And then eventually I had to go for like a CT scan.
Yeah.
And then they picked up like a stress fracture just underneath where I broke my hip.
Yeah.
And that put me out for like another 2 months just to heal it and everything. So back to square one. And luckily, like I obviously learned everything, like all those lessons before. So I was just like, I was very content and I was like, okay, well, I need to now do this the right way. So yeah, I figured out that I had another stress fracture and had to go for more bone density scans and everything, and was told like, it's not good for my body and the impact is way too hard. My bones can't really like take that impact.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went on to like bed rest again and taking it super easy. And when I started getting better, I went to my biokineticist and he also struggles with like some sort of injury, and he's like, yeah, I should try some trail running. Like it's a little bit different, but it's like a lot less impact on the body. You should just go try it. So yeah, I made some friends and went and joined some runs, and yeah, my love for trail running began there.
And before that, had you done any type of trail running or anything like that?
No, the funny thing is I live in George, and our mountains are so beautiful, and yeah, I didn't like think of me trail running at all. Like I always thought of myself just running on the road, like go fast and go far. So like, I don't know, the trail running was never really something I thought about. So it really opened a new door for me.
Yeah. And talk to me a bit about your cousin Brandon. I mean, even even his involvement, did that not kind of like pique your interest or anything like that? Until it did, obviously. Yeah,
well, Brandon and I, when I started trail running, I started joining him. And yeah, like that, obviously, it really, the way he runs and competes and trains, it really gave me motivation, and I wanted to do what he was doing and go for the long runs. And yeah, the runs that I did join, it was just so beautiful, the scenery and like the different type of running and that feeling to be in nature and in fresh air and like seeing things people wouldn't usually see. That it was a privilege to be there, and training with him is really nice. We train together all the time. So yeah. And
tell me, what was the kind of the initial, the first time you were trail running and you kind of were like, wow, this is amazing. What was that initial kind of attraction? What was the thing that drew you?
I think it's very different to road running. It feels a lot harder.
Yeah.
Or road running is really hard, or track running is really hard. It's, and trail running is a different kind of hard. And a lot of people see it as like a difficult sport.
Yeah.
And I really like to suffer.
Yeah.
So I think the feeling of it being hard is what kind of wanted me to do more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And talk to me about, the making friends and the community kind of aspect of it. How important was that in the beginning? And I guess how important is it still as part of your running journey?
I'm a very shy person.
Okay.
So like making new friends, being in big groups, it's quite daunting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of made it a bit easier when I started going into it, because all my friends from school obviously left and went to like university, and I wasn't really surrounded by them anymore. So I needed to make new friends and like that. So when I started getting into the trail running, I went to like social runs and everything. And obviously the people there are a lot older. So also making new friends with older people, I find it is a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Easier to talk to them and everything. So yeah, it's really, really cool how many friends I've made, and the community in trail running is incredible. Everyone's so friendly. They want you to do like super well, and it's really special.
Why do you think there's such an amazing community in George?
George is a small town.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows everyone. And the sport's growing in George, and it's it's really nice to see.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring how like all kinds of ages are coming out and running on the trails. We're getting a lot more younger trail runners in, which is really nice. And it's very special to have a growing community, and the community there is very supportive.
Yeah. And there's this kind of notion of like this overnight success, and often you look at the story of these kind of overnight success and you realize that it's like a 10-15 year kind of process. And I think for you, there's obviously definitely that element of people are kind of finding out about you now, and there is that sort of element of overnight success. But there's definitely, like 2 or 3 years at least, obviously you don't have the sort of 10 or 15 years, but it's definitely like 2 or 3 years of solid work that you've kind of put in. So take me on a journey over the last few years, and how do you kind of respond to that kind of, oh, you're an overnight success, you've just come out of nowhere?
I don't know if I've come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I have been running for a while, and having that background of running obviously really helps where I am now. And the coach that I had back then obviously helped me with my running technique and how to run properly and efficiently. So that's obviously given me a nice base to where I am now. But like it's like I've progressed quite well, and I started running it's been almost 2 years now of trail running. I started with Brendan Lombard. We started off like easy, and we did a good base as well because I just came back from injury, and he was very conservative at the time, or still is. He's always wanting to like preserve my body, make sure that we do it the right way, that I don't do too much, I don't burn out, always checking up on me. So like we started easy, shorter, still doing shorter, trying to get my way into the ultra world, but he's having none of it. But we started shorter. I did my first marathon distance last year, and this year gonna do my first ultra, which I'm very excited about. But we've come a long way in the past 2 years.
And I think it's so interesting because people say, wow, 2 years, that's quite a short time. But I was actually thinking, that if you kind of really are passionate about something and you really work at something, 2 years is a long time to kind of develop at something. Obviously, if it's like 2 years and you're running once a week, you're not going to, so talk to me kind of about the last 2 years in terms of that development, in terms of, and I guess take me back to, the decision to kind of train with Brendan. Why was it kind of, I need to get a coach. I want to get a coach. I want to kind of take it seriously from the get-go.
So it was, to get a coach was always my idea. I'm one to overtrain. I love training, and like racing is just a bonus. I mean, I do love racing. It's really special for me, but to train is like everything. I love training. If I could, I would be running like 4 hours every day, which you can't do. So getting a coach was vital for me. And I had to chat to my parents about it and everything, and they were really for it because they know, like, once I put my mind to it, I will do it properly. And so I really wanted to do it the right way this time and make sure that I won't get injured. I'll do everything correctly. I'll do my strength training, my cross training, all of that stuff to help my running. And I just needed a guideline and a program to follow just to make sure that it's going the right way. And I found Brendan because, Brandon was with Brendan, and the way Brandon was training, it really like intrigued me, and I wanted to do the same. So I got in touch with Brendan, and we had a call and we chatted, and I was super excited to get started, and I felt like he already understood me that first call we had. And it was very nice, or very special, to almost click with someone immediately and be able for him to like understand me and where I was coming from and my injury and everything. And it was very exciting from the get-go.
I mean, as you know, I also train with Brendan. Still waiting for him to turn me into a superstar athlete. But so talk to me a bit about, like the development with him. Now that obviously you've got to the level where you are and you're no longer at the kind of level when you started, how has that kind of relationship evolved? Brendan
and we're quite close, and we've got a good bond when it comes to training and running. And like I said, it's very nice that he understands me, and coming from beginner phase to where I am now, it's been a really good, very good progress. And he keeps me under control. He has to keep tabs all the time.
I'm the same. Yeah.
Just to make sure I'm doing not too much, or because I am one to go over, but and he knows that, so he's quite strict with me. But like I said, he just wants to make sure that my body will be able to run in a couple years' time still. So it's so fascinating that it's actually such an interesting thing, because obviously I've experienced that firsthand, is that Brendan's a really great coach. And I think because obviously he's been there, in terms of the like, no, you're not doing this. Like, and that's so interesting, because everyone's like, no, you need a coach to get better. But it's actually that it's such an important element of coaching, just to be like, to keep you on that path, and keep like, they're looking out for the vision, when you're just like, oh, I just want to run like every day. And talk to me, like, also I think the other thing is, and I made the joke about, why Brendan hasn't transformed me into, because I think for me, it's like, there's definitely something with me where it's like, I love the training and I love doing it, but I'm not really fully taking in kind of everything that he's telling me. And, there's definitely not, I've got a passion for trail running, but there's definitely not a passion for, or to actually take on board all the learning. So for me, it kind of seems that you've kind of every step of the way have kind of taken on those learnings and really integrated that. So talk to me a bit about that. Is that part of your character? Is that something you find that you do with the things you do in your life? Like, if I have to do something, I will do it properly. And I am very driven. I want to do it the right way, and I want to make sure what I'm doing it the best I can. So I always just want to make sure that I'm going to succeed. I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. So that's very important to me.
And when was the first time you did a trail race?
The first trail like race I did was George FKT, the 6 Peaks. That was 2022, April 2022. So that was my first, if you want to say, trail race. It was 38 Ks, 3,000 meters, and I did it in 7 hours, 4 minutes. And you only been running for that was about 6 months into your running. I think it was 5 months, I think.
That's a rapid progression.
Brendan wasn't too happy.
I can imagine.
Too happy for me to do it, but I think he knew that I needed to do it just for to prove myself that I am capable and I can maybe go somewhere with the sport.
And take it back to the kind of the FKTs. George has quite a culture of FKTs, and it's quite a big thing. And I even find it interesting that you were like, your first race was an FKT, which is kind of like a challenge, it's not an official race. So talk to me a bit about that. Why is there that kind of intrigue in George? What is an FKT? Talk to me a bit more about that.
So FKT is the fastest known time for a route or segment or whatever. You're very right. The people in George love an FKT. I think like they'd rather do the 6 Peaks FKT over a race. I think they love it so much, or from my perspective, I love it so much, is because FKT, you go as hard as you can until you can get the best time. That's very similar to a race, but I think that mindset is just a bit different. So I think the people in George just love a FKT because they can do it whenever. It's not like a set thing. I think, I don't know, they just, if there's a date, they'll take it up and they'll go do it for the day and be out there for as long as they want or as fast as they can do it. So when you kind of started running, was it obviously with the community there, was it like this is kind of like the thing you kind of you need to do? Talk to me a bit about that first FKT. How was it? What was it like? What did you feel that you were maybe underprepared for? Take me through that. So it wasn't as it was my like first race kind of thing, I had no clue what to expect. It was going to be the longest time I was ever going to be on like my legs, like probably definitely longer than being on a bike. And I rode a lot at the time before I got back into my running. So yeah, I didn't really think too much into it. Like I'm not a very, I am an overthinker, but I try not to, like I overthink a lot of things, but with my running, it's one thing I don't overthink, which is I think it's quite a good thing for me. So yeah, I knew it was going to be 7 hours or more, but I kind of prepped myself for like a 3-hour run. But obviously, I chatted to Brendan and we like did everything the right way, nutrition and I didn't know like what to expect. I didn't know how I was going to feel. And it was super hard, but it was so fun, and I wouldn't change anything, to be honest.
And then once you finished and you'd obviously, you'd achieved you got the fastest time at that stage, was that correct?
Yes.
For a woman?
Yes.
Okay. So, once you're kind of like, oh, this is my debut race, I've got this fastest time, like what was the thinking there? Like, oh, I can actually do this thing competitively?
Yeah, so with Six Peaks, you do the 6 peaks in George and you finish on the last peak.
Okay.
And then it's like a 8 or 9K route that you have to go down, but you stop your watch at the
It's like, where's the helicopter?
Peak.
Why isn't a helicopter here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then you literally have to run down like an extra 8Ks afterwards.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's like over 40Ks of running.
Sure.
But my dad was waiting at the top for me, which was really special. And then my friend joined me from the second last peak. So she ran with me from Tierkop to Groenkop. And it was super special. Like I finished there. My dad was waiting. She was waiting. And it was quite emotional because it was my first like big thing after my injury, and it was like a really like special time for me. I realized that I'm capable and like maybe I can go into the trail running thing.
And then what happened from there?
From there, ASICS got in touch with me. Yeah. And I've been running professionally for them now since 2022 August, I think. Yeah, so almost 2 years.
Amazing.
Or 2 years.
And what race kind of followed that challenge? Was it UTCT? No,
it was MUT the next year.
Okay. Yes. So that was last year.
Yes.
Yeah. And talk to me, I guess we can now, it's a nice segue into those brands and sponsorships. Obviously, the difference between trail running and I guess, road running and track running is that's kind of where the opportunities are. It's not like you can go and win races and then you get R1 million, go win the comrades, you get R1 million. So it's quite a bit of a difference where, the sponsorships is kind of where that's how you're going to kind of earn your living or, so talk to me about that. Talk to me about the kind of the relationship with ASICS. You mentioned kind of how it came about, but how has that kind of evolved? What drew you to them, or was it kind of they got in touch and that was kind of the how it started?
Yeah. So when I started, I was like the definition of an amateur. Yeah. I had no idea of anything, to be honest, and I was in and out shoes and testing all the different brands and. Obviously, I had Brandon to look up to, and he helped me a lot with shoes, nutrition, everything. At the time, I ran in Hokers, I ran in Ons, I tried some ASICS, and then they got on board with me, and I started running with them. We've come a long way together. It's really cool, and the products have also gotten they've become a lot more efficient in so my preferences of shoes have changed as well. I'm currently running in the Trabuco Maxes. They are so amazing. And I was more in like a more minimalistic shoe at the time, But now, I run in the maxes, which are quite cushioned and everything. But like our relationship is, it's really good, and they really look after me. They want the best for me and for their athletes. They'll back us going through an injury. And they really care about us, which is very important if you're an athlete. And
It's amazing that, because I think a lot of people, be like, oh, cool, you're sponsored by ASICS, they give you free stuff. And like, that's kind of the end of the, so it's really cool to hear that obviously they back you and they look after you and support you. And talk to me about other sponsorships, that have kind of, and other opportunities that kind of have come up over the last 2 years. Talk to me a bit about that.
So I've been obviously running with ASICS the longest. And through racing and everything, I've had a few brands contacting me and wanting to come on board and everything, which is really cool. And I'm very lucky and privileged to be able to do that. I've recently signed with Buff. I now run in caps and buffs, and it's really cool. I love it. And they're also a really cool team to work with, want the best for me, always in contact, wishing you the best, making sure you're doing well and everything. And then I also signed with NARC end of last year as my nutrition brand. And their products are really good. They've recently brought out a gel, which is the one thing they didn't have. So the gels are super nice. It's cool. And I'm really lucky to be able to work with these incredible brands.
Incredible. And how do you kind of manage, I guess, the kind of the different sponsorships and, the different, I guess, expectations from the brands?
The brands, obviously, they want you to market them. They want you to make sure that you're doing well in their products and stuff. So to keep them happy, you obviously need to run in what makes you comfortable and perform in what makes you comfortable. So I think they're just happy when you're happy, and
And talk to me, let's talk a bit more about NARC and also talk about nutrition. How has that kind of your nutrition kind of journey evolved, and how have you trained it? How have you worked on it? And then talk to me a bit more about NARC. What is NARC? Who are they? And your kind of relationship and how that's evolved.
So NARC, I've always struggled with nutrition, to find what works for me. My tummy is quite a sensitive thing. So once they contacted me, I tried the products and I was very impressed. Their mix worked so well for me. The carb ratio is really good, carb to calorie. And the gels and the purees, the bars, the waffles are the best. So they've got a big variety and they work, the products really work well for me. I've never had an issue. And the thing about NARC is it's ultra energy. So the carb to calorie ratio is quite high. So it's got quite a bit of calories in it, which is great for ultras because you need the calories when you're running. And also it's got protein in it. So when you go longer, your body does need some protein just to for that recovery purpose later on. NARC is a different product. It's also a very clean product. It's vegan certified or whatever. It's very clean, very good product, good on the stomach. It's really, I enjoy it. And also I know when you race or when you run, you sometimes hit a mental block when you're I have to take a gel. But with NARC, you can take a waffle and you associate that with a snack or a reward or whatever. So to have that, it kind of makes you at ease, I think. So if you're in a race or doing a long run and you're feeling really down or you're not feeling like your best, to maybe have a bite of a waffle could just like uplift that spirit a little bit.
Yeah.
Because maybe like when you were a kid, you would have had a waffle for like, so just to make that association.
Everyone loves a waffle. Yeah.
It's quite cool.
Yeah.
So, and NARC recently came into South Africa, so that's really, really cool. All the athletes can get it now, which is really nice because, I mean, NARC sponsors MUT by UTMB, and for the athletes to maybe try it prior the race is very important, just to make sure that they can test it, and if they're at an aid station, they can maybe have it and know that it will be fine. So it's come a long way.
Yeah. That's amazing. And talk to me, outside of sponsorship, what other kind of opportunities have you had over the last year, in terms of races, in terms of travels, things like that?
Outside of sponsors, I travel to race. I've recently brought in NARC for South Africa, so I do that as my job as well. And I'm also a coach. And so I have a few things going for me, and I appreciate that, because I love running and I do need to switch off from running. So to have different things to deal with and to put my mind on other things really helps me with my running too. It kind of, as much as it should stress me out, it does stress me out, but to maybe put my stress or my focus on something else other than my running is very important. And I'm lucky to be able to do that.
What's it like being a business owner?
Stressful. But really, it's really nice. The successes and I don't know, it feels good. But also stressful.
How's the response been to the product coming into South Africa?
We've recently brought it in.
How was the response after MUT?
After MUT?
Yeah.
It's been a slow soft launch. We do need to let the people know more that we do have the product here. But a lot of people have asked questions after MUT. A lot of people wanted the product. I put up an expo stand at NARC, so a lot of people were there and they were wondering where they can get it. So it was a soft launch, and not a lot of people know that it's in the country yet, but hopefully a lot of people will know soon. I've got a few retail stores bringing the product in now. Gone Outdoors got it. Run Collective up in Durban, I think, has it. And then Mount Co and George has it. So a couple retail stores have it. We have an online store. And what kind of lessons and perspectives do you kind of give being on the other side, as a business owner, not only a runner and a consumer? It's business owner, like I don't know, it's difficult, or not difficult, but it's different.
And talk to me, I guess, about your racing calendar. You say you travel to races. How do you kind of put your race calendar together? Is it kind of sponsor dependent? Is it, training dependent? How does that all come about?
So beginning of the year or end of the year, coming up for the new year, I usually sit down with Brandon and we discuss what we want to do, what I want to do. Obviously, sponsors want you to do some specific races, which then I will align with other races. If it depends like what my brands would want me to do, but also I can do whatever races I want to do, and they're really happy for that. I usually sit down, plan my year, and if I get like invitations to do races and I'm wanting to do it, then I would do it. But we plan it in the beginning of the year, because sometimes you get a race that's more runnable compared to a more mountainous race, and you need to make sure it aligns. Otherwise, you could be training completely wrong for the race, and that might not work out, and you might not do as well as you'd hope. So yeah, it's very like you need to plan correctly. And yeah.
And talk to me, I guess, about George Mutt. Talk to me about the win this year, and I guess from it being your first race last year, you know, how was that kind of shift and that, you know, the difference between the two races?
Yeah, so last year and this year, very big difference.
Yeah.
Last year, it rained for weeks before the race. On the race, or like night before the race, it poured. And George, I think all the runners that have been there, they know George as like the mud, the mud fest.
Yeah.
So, very different race from last year to this year. Last year's race was really good. I was very, very stoked with how it went. I had a blast. But yeah, like I said, the mud was a lot to deal with. I cramped like you have no idea. Just obviously because of like your muscles or your stabilizers are overworking due to the fact that they need to like keep your legs kind of still in the mud that's sliding. So yeah, I suffered with like cramps and stuff. And it was super cold. But yeah, I had a really good race last year and I'm really happy with it. But this year was a special year. It was really nice to win on my home ground and in my backyard. And yeah, my training towards that was my first race for the year this year. So I put a lot of time, a lot of effort, focus into that race. And yeah, my goal was obviously to podium and do really well. And yeah, like I had the perfect day. There was no rain. Weeks before, there was no rain. The night before, the mud wasn't as bad as last year. And yeah, the route changed a little bit from last year, but yeah, it was really a really special day out there.
And talk to me, I guess, about the pressure of racing your home race. You know, I guess the pressure versus obviously, you know, it's incredible, you know, local, but obviously you've got huge amounts of pressure. So talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, so racing at home, I definitely do feel the pressure a little bit more. Just because like my whole family's there, my friends, like you do feel a bit more like, oh, I need to like perform. And but like I said, I don't really overthink my running too much. So I try and block out those kind of things. So yeah, I just do me and run. And obviously I want to do well and for my family to be proud of me and everything. But yeah, I do feel a little bit more pressure than what I would usually feel.
Yeah. And do you feel that's a bit of an advantage, obviously, that you've trained on the trails and you know the trails?
Yeah, so I training on the trails, like pre-race, recceing it and everything. I do find it is like a bit of an advantage, but like I do say, I kind of race better not knowing. Just because maybe you have a bad day on the recce and then you're like on the race and you're like, oh no, I had a bad day here. Hopefully I don't feel like this again. So like to not know is sometimes better for me. But also like knowing, you know where to fuel before the climb, you know where to fuel after the climb, you know the terrain. So yeah, I think it's a win-lose kind of situation for me. But yeah, like obviously it was really nice to be able to train on the course. And
talk to me about racing. You know, I think trail running is one of those things which it seems like people get into a bit later in life. Talk to me a bit about racing, you know, against older competitors, people, you know, with a bit more experience. What advantages do you think you have, and kind of disadvantages as well?
Yeah, so I'm always the youngest at the events. But it also doesn't really feel like it. I kind of pretend I'm the same age because if you put your mind to it, if you put the training in, you can perform just like a person that's older than you. And also, I know a lot of people say being young, maybe you have more energy and stuff. But being older, you have more experience. So that's also like a win-lose situation. But like I said, if you focused and you train hard and you're confident in yourself, you'll be able to perform just like someone that's older than you or younger than you.
Yeah. And tell me about the kind of the pressure of kind of standing on the start line. You know, how does it get to you? What is that kind of experience like?
Yeah, the start line, I get very nervous before a race. That's one thing I do that does happen to me. As much as I don't overthink my running, being nervous is a big thing for me. So yeah, standing on the start line, I'm super nervous, but as soon as we start, then I go completely at ease and really happy to be there and just want to run hard.
Yeah. And talk to me about competing overseas, in terms of like the differences between that and South Africa, and obviously talk to me a bit about the Peru race that you've kind of just done.
Yeah, racing overseas, I usually go on my own and travel on my own. So it's hard, it's stressful, it can be lonely. And running here at home, obviously I have my family, I have my friends. Our lifestyle here in South Africa is a lot better than overseas. We're very lucky to live the way we do, and as much as we have like politics and we have our problems here, but I think I would take these problems any day compared to living a lifestyle overseas. But yeah, I think also having someone with you might make it feel a little bit better. But yeah, it's very different, and racing overseas, it's hard because you're on your own and you need to, I don't know, like you're on your own, you need to go to the shop and then you need to come home and you need to figure everything out on your own. But that also, there's a lot of personal growth there, which is important, I think. And yeah, it's not easy to be there out there by yourself. And yeah.
So talk to me a bit about Peru. Was that your kind of first international race, or your first kind of, like proper experience?
No, so Peru was my third international race.
Okay,
I went to Croatia last year in April. I went to Italy and France for UTMB last year in August. So this was my third trip. Peru was very far, very far from home. To be honest, I struggled there quite a bit. Very rural, very it was a struggle. And but yeah, a lot of personal growth was made. I learned a lot, and also I like to be in control and like independent. So I think it was a bit easier for me, or not easier, but like I was able to cope because of that. But I wouldn't go back. And how was it kind of racing in such an unfamiliar, dealing with, as you said, like going to the shop, the language barrier, the altitude, like dealing with all those things, but then still, dealing with race pressures and the kind of things you have normally. Yeah, so it was quite an experience with that. The language barrier was out of this world. Like I had to walk around with my Google Translate, and like there were street dogs the whole time, so I couldn't really get my training in like I wanted to. So instead of watching my back for like people trying to mug me, I was watching dogs trying to bite me.
Oh wow, okay, that's a new experience.
And I was based at 3,500 meters, and my race went to 5,000 meters.
Sure.
So it was tough, but also like I really like to suffer. So I think that also just gave me that extra like drive. But yeah, to be honest, on that start line, I struggled with my motivation. I didn't really feel like I would usually feel before a race. I was nervous, but I wasn't really like as nervous as I would usually be. So I knew that there was something like not right. But like in the race, I was like, Rebecca, you need to do this. You can't just have fun or have fun. I mean, I always have fun when I'm running, but like, you need to do this properly. You're not here to just have a party.
Yeah.
So then I kind of just psyched myself up in the race, and I was like, you need to do this. And eventually got some motivation, but it was super hard and it was a struggle because climbing up to 5,000 meters, it's super slow going. Yeah. But at the top, and I'm not great with descents, but I've learned and I've convinced myself to love them. So when I got to the top, I was like, you know what? You love a downhill. Yeah. Just go hard. And I really enjoyed the race coming down. And I think I really do love running downhill now because of that. So it was a good experience regardless.
Positive self-talk. I love that. And talk to me a bit about training, in terms of, we did chat a bit about, it's clear that you've taken on everything you've kind of learned and you've really put that into practice. At what stage was it like, oh, this is something that I maybe, want to do as not a job, but maybe like, I want to help other people run?
So with coaching, it takes my mind off my running as well. Yeah. And to put myself in the athlete's shoes, it's really important to me. Also, like, their lifestyle's very different to mine. So to coach just a regular runner that's wanting to run and also perform, you need to like pretend to be them and take their aspects of life into consideration too, because they have a family or children or whatever. So you kind of need to plan around that. They need to train, obviously, but like maybe do their long runs midweek and then on the weekends can be with their kid while they're not at school. Yeah. So like, I love my coaching. I love my athletes. I have a really good bond with all of them. I'm very in it. I make sure everything's going well, that they're doing well, that they're enjoying the training and that they're doing it. Yeah. So like, I really do love doing that. And I like to not pretend, but put myself in their shoes and like try and see their running from their eyes instead of my running through my eyes. Because it is very different. I mean, I do mine as my job and they do it for fun. And if anyone, well, the people that do know me, they know I love running and like it is my job, but I also run because I love it. Like, I believe like you need to do, if you like want to do something, you need to love it and you need to enjoy it. Otherwise you shouldn't do it. Yeah. And talk to me how your relationship with Brendan has kind of evolved since you've kind of become a coach yourself. Brendan, I chatted to Brendan when I wanted to become a coach. And our relationship is really good. Like, he's my coach, but we're also friends, and we chat about things. We're very open with each other, which is really special to me because I feel like I can chat to him about a lot of things and he can help me. Amazing. And talk to me a bit about, you've mentioned now about people coach, coming into the sport. What kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to kind of get into trail running? From my advice and opinion, I would say to a runner that's starting out is to not rush the process, to take it easy. And also from experience, you don't need to go as far as you can as soon as you start. There's no point in that. You're just going to break your body down. You're going to pick up an injury. So my advice is take it easy in the beginning. Do the short runs. Have fun. Do a coffee run. It's not about how far you can go in the beginning. I mean, if you're conditioned and you're running well and you're fit and you've got a good base and you're not having any niggles, then look into maybe going a bit further, like race-wise and stuff. But take it easy. Do the coffee runs. Yeah. And, what advice would you give to someone around coaching? I think a lot of people kind of are like, oh, I'm not a professional. I don't need a coach.
Why do you think that that's kind of a misconception?
I think from my opinion, having a coach it's really good, especially if you like routine, if you want to train, but you struggle to get yourself out the door every day. Like, to have a coach and have someone to hold you accountable and for you to know that someone's watching. I think having a coach is important, especially if you want to do a race and you want to do well. You don't want to go out there, have done 3 runs before the race and you're now struggling in the race. That's not enjoyable.
Yeah.
To have a coach, you don't need to be a professional. You can just have a coach to maybe feel good in your race and be content with yourself and not stress on the start line that you're going to finish or not.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of athletes that really just enjoy the process of training and having a structure around outside of just normal lifestyle, to have a fitness plan kind of.
And talk to me about goals. How do you kind of set goals? What are the long, short, medium term goals for yourself?
My goals for the future would obviously I really want to compete in the Golden Trail Series, and maybe be top 10 one day, and I want to go race OCC, maybe Triple C later on. So I have some goals and I'm excited to get to them one day.
Amazing. And tell me something, what advice would you give to someone, who's maybe potentially looking as a trail runner and they want to kind of get into coaching? What kind of advice would you give in terms of getting started there?
So being a coach or wanting to be a coach, obviously you need to do a little study or do a course. So in beginning of 2022, after I finished school, I did a coaching course, and I learned a lot through that. And I feel if you want to be a coach, you can study and you can do that, but I think you also need to be able to run, or not be able to run, but you need to be involved in a sport, and you need to be able to understand an athlete to be able to coach them. You need to know how they would feel in that session, or know how they would respond to, say, a gym session. So to be a coach, you need to know obviously all the ins and outs and how to coach, but also to understand an athlete is very important.
Yeah. And talk to me about the mental side of it. How important is that in terms of coaching, but also in terms of trail running, personally?
Yeah. Well, running, I think you really need to be mentally strong. You need to have a strong mind, because any endurance sport is really hard on the body and mentally hard. And training and running it can get lonely, and it's important to maybe mix it up with a group run or a social run, or message a friend to just join you for those easy runs. It doesn't always have to be on your own. So mentally you need to be strong. You need to look after yourself. If you're having a bad day, you need to just be easy on yourself. And treat yourself too, I guess.
That's amazing. I love that. And what would you kind of say to, I mean, it's weird asking this question. It's what would you say to your younger self? But it's you're still your younger self. But what would you kind of say to that person, I guess, that started trail running, or, even maybe go back to, what would you kind of say to yourself when you first got that injury in the 3,000 meters?
Yeah. So, well, I have told myself many times. I just tell myself I need to look after my body, and you only have one body, and you can't mess it up, because what I want to do, I want to run until I'm 50 or even older. So I just keep on reminding myself, if I want to be running in 30 years time, I'm going to need to eat, I need to recover, I need to listen to Brendan, I need to do everything right, just to make sure that that I'm healthy and I'm not going to get an injury.
Yeah.
Because I can't go back to that place where I was before when I got my injury. So I learned a lot through that, and I am grateful for that. And like I always say, everything happens for a reason. And getting that injury has obviously brought me to where I am today.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing. And what is the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you on a run?
Many things, but my first race I did here in Cape Town, and I went off the trail. I don't even know, I can't remember, but I went off the trail of Pipe Track.
Yeah.
Apparently it's one of the most well-known trails.
Yeah, I don't know how you get that's literally I run that with my beginners groups because I'm you can't get lost on the Pipe Track.
Yeah, well, I got lost there and I ran an extra 5Ks just because of that.
Wow.
So yeah, finishing, yeah, I was in the lead, so it was quite embarrassing.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Well, at least you learned the lessons, and now you know the Pipe Track.
I haven't actually run there since, to be honest.
Well, end of the year, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
And good luck with the rest of the year and with your journey.
Thank you so much.
Feeling fired up after this incredible episode? Dive deeper into the world of trail running by exploring our other episodes, available wherever you get your podcasts. We're eagerly awaiting your feedback as well, so connect with us on Instagram @TrailChasersPod. Don't hold back. Like, comment, message, and share your thoughts. Until next week, keep chasing those trails.